Welcome to Cracking the Rich Code, the podcast. I'm your host, John Verico. And once again, I bring you a very, very special guest. Today's guest is not only a fantastic author and an executive coach, a transformative coach, but he's also a really special friend. So let me bring in Doug Giesler. Doug, my friend,
Oh,
how are
very
you?
good.
Great to see you
I'm doing
again.
great, man. How are you?
Oh, it's always great when we get a chance to get on a call together, my friend.
No doubt, man. I just can't help smiling when I see you, brother.
We met through this Cracking the Rich Code network, and we just hit it off. And sometimes we have that opportunity to, really find people that we connect with. And so I'm so glad that we come together, and I'm so glad that you finally booked your time on the Cracking the Rich Code podcast.
It's been a
So
little
great to have
while,
you on.
John. I've been so freaking busy, man.
Well, that's a good thing, but as we know, that busy is an acronym for basically underserving yourself. So you've
Oh,
got to make the time.
that's right. That's right. No doubt about it.
Now, lately I've been interviewing people who have been, in volume 18, but you wrote your chapter back in volume 16,
I did.
right? And volume 16, you wrote your chapter was Unlimit Your Limit. And what a catchy title that is. So, what I want to do before we kind of get into that, let's talk a little bit and tell people kind of who Doug Giesler is and how you found yourself in this realm.
Yeah, absolutely. I was very successful out of college and had a really strong sales management career. And I was doing great, and then kind of ran into a brick wall. Just had a lot of struggling going on, and it took me a little while to kind of figure out, what made me tick. Took some time off because I'd made a lot of money and whatnot. But I took a lot of time off, and I was actually studying the markets and studying myself. And I would say late 20s, early 30s had some extremely powerful revelations, um, just massive downloads of insights that literally changed my life. It changed how I think. It changed how I felt. It changed how I received information. It changed basically the way that I perceived life. And so when I say that everything was different after that, I truly mean that everything was different after that. It took me.
So what were what share some of those revelations with us?
So it was about how, like, for the first half of my life, I was straight barrel forward, blinders on, not feeling, not hearing, not, basically just completely driven by want, need, need to succeed, I need to drive, I need to do better, I need to make more money, all that stuff, right? And at some point,
We do that to ourselves.
yeah, and to some extent I'm doing that again, but not for the same reasons. It's different now. I want to help, but I've always been a driven guy, and you drive up to that edge, and sometimes you stop at the edge. Well, I was doing that. And so, but there were reasons why I was doing that. There was fear, there was anxiety, there was, anxiousness, there was all kinds of emotions that were coming in that I didn't understand. I didn't know how to process that. Once all that stuff kind of came in, and I realized that it was just energy. And there were a number of things and some amazing people that helped me to come to that realization. But Jay Hart actually told me, Doug, the obstacle is the path. And it made me really think about, like, okay, well, what's my obstacle, right? What's my obstacle? And then I started really studying fear and excitement, because there's always that push-pull. Excitement can get in the way just as much as fear can. There's always that future that kind of pulls you. And what it made me realize was that, and this was really by watching an oversight of my mind and how it really ticks, was that the times where I get in my own way, I'm either not in the moment because I'm in the past, either regretting a decision, just pissed off
Oh,
about, something that I didn't do right, or I was in the future and I was projecting either desire or fear from, a future standpoint. So if you're in the future or you're in the past, then you cannot make an effective decision in this moment. So I was watching that
oh, that's brilliant.
that push pull between the past and the future. And then if I was to get locked up in the future, like if it was desire, I would see it. If it was, fear, I would see it. But the thing was, by watching from an oversight perspective of my mind, I was able to see it before I made the mistake, not after. But it was a process. It took me a long time to really kind of learn really how to be that far above myself so that I wasn't getting in my own way.
But that is a gift, being able to do that before you make the mistake.
Yeah.
Don't we all wish we had that ability?
Yeah.
And we do, I think. And that's where I think you help people as being a transformative coach, is helping people to get to that point, that realization of not being stuck in the past. I remember Jim Britt had said something once that just struck with me, and I don't think it was an original thing that he said. I think he got it from somewhere else, but somewhere along the line, he said, when we're looking at a new venture, or a new thing to do, or trying to make a decision, the first 10 things that go through our mind are the last 10 times we failed.
Yeah, the mind is magnetized to that stuff. And when we dig into our past to create the future, we do nothing but create the same stuff. And so that's super powerful. And learning that ability to see that, because it really does it. You basically have to step in front of yourself, right in front of that moment. It's like you're watching that wave of time come through, and you're like almost ready to step in, get in your own way. And then you're like, nope, not going to do it. And then you become new in that moment, and you rise above yourself in that moment. And it is such a victorious feeling, like to be better than what you were a moment ago, and so you just keep doing that and doing that and doing that and doing that. And you look back after a year and you're like, well, dang, I'm not even the same person that I was a year ago. Or, you look back 6 months ago or a month ago, a week ago sometimes. And it's like, it's super powerful. And I know Jim Britt's a huge believer in letting go. In fact, I think he has a website that's dedicated to letting go. And that could be regret, that could be remorse, that could be from losing people, pets, all kinds of things draw us to the past, and it's a den of pain more often than not, right? So first step is letting go of the past. Then you get present, right? You are present, but then what happens? The future, reaches in and either desire or fear grab you, uncertainty, the unknown, all those things that are future based. And so then we're only, that moment, that presence moment, it's a nanosecond, man. It's so fast. So having that elevated vantage point to watch the mind and how it ticks, and the things like the triggers that we experience in our lives, everybody's different. Like everybody reacts differently to different things, situational things, people, places, all these different things affect us, like our emotions, how we perceive, if we perceive, because if we're not in the moment, we're not even getting the right data.
Yeah. Oh man. So you talked about letting go of the things that are holding us back. And I actually, in my chapter back in volume 13, I wrote about overcoming those things that hold us back, and those things being regret, guilt, judgment, and blame.
Yeah.
Which are all the things that we've experienced in life, and the things that keep us from moving forward. And it's the fear of having recurrence of regret, guilt, and blame that keep us from making that step forward. And this is brilliant to understand how to be in that moment. How do you help people to define that and to focus that way?
So here's the long range view. The books really narrow it down and take people through the process, like the step-by-step process. But the ultimate answer is self-love. Because if we have self-love, then instantly, instead of blame, because our psyche wants to go to blame so bad, and it'll either blame the self, it'll blame somebody else, it'll blame the situation, it'll blame any number of things, but blame is super ridiculously fast. So that's why I actually wrote the second book, which is forgiveness, because forgiveness is the tool that helps you let go of the past so that you can move forward through whatever that might be. It could be towards me, it could be towards you, it could be towards whatever. But forgiveness is the tool that allows you to let go of the past and get to the moment so that you can make really good decisions in that.
And probably one of the hardest things to implement.
And what do they say? Ultimately, love is the answer. So if I can't practice love for myself, then how am I going to do it for you, John, or anybody else? Right? So practicing self-love is basically you're giving yourself the gift that you need to give to the world. That's all we do. Like, if you can learn how to do that, imagine this world a year or 2 years, 5 years from now.
You know, why am I hearing Whitney Houston now?
Right? Actually, he had one of the most powerful songs that relates to that I think ever was sang, and couldn't have been sung by a better person. That's actually that's one of the songs that's in the book, you know?
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Hey, this is the Cracking the Rich Code podcast, and our guest today is Doug Giesler, and he is just a font of love, man. He just pours it out. And so we're gonna learn more about him. And so Doug, now you put some of this stuff in Unlimit Your Limit in chapter 16, volume 16 of Cracking the Rich Code.
Yep.
What was, and I'm getting a feeling that I'm understanding this, but what was the impetus for you to want to put that particular message out? Of all the things that you do and all of the revelations that you've had in your life, you chose that particular one to write about in Cracking the Rich Code. Why did you go there?
I basically, it's a summation of the books. So you got Be the Instrument was basically an overview of the mindset that really, really, pulls you through these limits that we experience in our own, obstacles, whatever that might be, because everybody's different, right? And then I got some feedback from that book, and people wanted a little bit more, so I wrote 2 more books. One was about forgiveness, which is geared towards the past, and then the third one was about faith, which is geared towards the future. And so my chapter in Jim Britt's Cracking the Rich Code is all about growing beyond the previous peaks that we've experienced in life, because the human nature really wants to get more of the same. So we could be good. The human nature wants to stay good. It wants to stay right there in its comfort zone, right? That's what we want. That's what we like crave.
Yes.
So from a psyche perspective, a lot of us push, but there's always that ceiling, right? And we're always pushing up against that ceiling. So what I wanted to do with this is show people within their own minds, right, where to see that, like where we're drawing those limits. Okay. And part of that is, with emotionals, like cues that come up within us as we approach certain things. Others are the words we use. If you really think about drawing a sentence or saying a particular word, that identification itself is drawing a limit, no matter what the word is. So each word, because we define things, we want to label things, we want to define them. And as soon as we do that, you're limited, right?
You've locked in.
You've locked it in. So we do it to ourselves over and over and over again. It's like, wait, I'm supposed to be learning from this. Like, I'm not supposed to draw those limits, right? So chapter.
What is it about human nature that wants to label and categorize everything?
It does, doesn't it? And we do it, and then okay, we did it. We drew a new label up here, and then we draw a new label up here. And so even though it's higher than it was the time before, it's still a label. It's still a limit, right? So we're doing it. We're just doing more. Like you and I, like we just go, and our limits are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So, but it's still a limit. If you identify it with the words, that's why I think, who was it that said I am and said nothing after it? It's when you fill in the blank after I am, that's where the limit comes in, right?
Right.
That's why I am. Yeah. And then you just be love in the moment, and you'll be exactly what's needed. But you got to learn how to do it.
I love it. That's so profound to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah. So, but it's not easy. It's certainly, I mean, it's a time thing, learning to see time as it, that what I call it is the evolution of the moment, seeing that interplay from the past to the future. And
Right.
learning how to see the roadblocks, the limits, the words that we speak to ourselves in our own minds, but seeing it in a timely fashion, so that instead of seeing it after the fact, where obviously we've made a mistake, to seeing it right before we make that mistake. And that's part of the learning curve. It's called growth. And self-love, as we kind of talked about before, is the key to realizing our best self in the moment.
That's a beautiful thing, Doug, and it's so true. And you always hear the expression, we're our own worst critic.
Indeed.
Because we tend to look at or not believe in ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we hesitate to take that next step, whatever that step is. And I love your whole perspective, which is why I've really enjoyed our conversations and your writings and stuff like that, because you've got such a positive outlook of unlimiting your limit. I mean, really what it comes down to, helping people to really open up. Now,
and
you go ahead.
No, as I say, one of the things that you just said was like, the hesitations, right? That's stuff, like if you really read it and do the study work in the book, those are the things that you'll see. Like you see like that human nature hesitate, or, when you approach something that's fearful, or you get overexcited, like these are the things that you see right before the moment that take you out of the moment. But now, because you're aware of it, it doesn't take you out of the moment. It doesn't overwhelm your internals. And so when you learn to manage those internals and really perceive all that information coming in, you don't get distracted. You don't hesitate. You move right through it, and it's so fluid and it's so cool, because you're like, I did it. Man, I freaking did it, and it's so exciting to kind of look back at it and go, of course, then the pride before the fall, right? You get proud of yourself, and then smack, and then something else hits you. But because you're looking back, you're like, you can look back in regret, you can look back in pride, but they're both behind you, right? So you can get taken out of the moment in lots of different ways. You got to see it. But the cool thing is, like, you see it after the fact first. Like you say, oh yeah, I missed it again, whatever. I'll do better the next time. But the cool thing is you grow. Like that's how you grow. That's how you learn. You kind of hit that like rewind button, and you go back and you're like, I saw the emotion. I didn't pay attention to it. Next time I'm going to be more aware. I'm going to see it before it happens, and I'm not going to get in my own way. And that's how you go.
And I love the way you put that. Like Esther Dyson said, right? Always make new mistakes.
Yeah, that's right. Don't make
we learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, man. You get it.
We learn from everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough. I worked for a guy who he took 10% of his budget and put it towards projects that he expected were likely to fail.
Interesting.
And he did that because he said, if this is successful, it'll be a game changer. But it's really out there.
Yep.
But if it doesn't work, then we've learned from it, and we know what can't work, and then we can look for something else that does.
Yep.
But if you start, from trying to achieve this, then instead of worrying about making it step by step, shoot for this.
Yeah.
And if you don't get there, that's fine. Then go here, then go here. But we'll learn from each step.
Yeah.
And by doing that, he basically released the fear of failure from, the workforce.
Yeah.
And encourage them to take reasonable risk, and to do whatever was possible. And what was interesting is that a good majority of those projects that he thought were going to likely to fail at the beginning wound up being successful, because you remove the fear of failure, and so people were more willing to try.
Yeah, and quite honestly, John, that's really powerful, because oftentimes we're blinded by our own limits, and something that's kind of over here, we won't even see it to try it, but yeah, I mean, if we can approach the moment without a fear of failure, that because we know that whatever happens is okay, well, then we're going to try more things, and more things are going to be successful just by the nature of that attitude, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're exactly right.
That's like I said, that's what it really comes down to is getting rid of that fear and understanding who we are and what we're capable of doing, and not limiting those capabilities. And you're so great about helping to pull that out from people.
Yeah, it's
So
really it's self-love and self-knowledge and understanding, the things that we're bumping into, and just being observant. Like, instead of just putting the blinders on like I did my first half of my life, be open to all the stuff, be open to the emotions, and try to perceive what they're telling you. You're seeing stuff. Well, if you have blinders on, you're not seeing your peripherals.
right.
If your hearing's not off, you're not hearing what you're supposed to hear. And the same thing for emotions. But one of the other cool things that I learned during that period of my life was that emotions pack a shit ton of, excuse my French, but a lot of
That's fine.
energy. A lot of
Yeah.
energy. Like
Yeah,
fear.
they do.
Fear has a ton of energy in it. Excitement. Excitement has a ton of energy in it. But both of those are capable of taking you out of the moment and blinding you. So being observant as to how that hits you, if it hits you, sometimes it'll hit and land on you, and you'll get taken to the past or you'll get taken to the future, and then you have no control of the decision that needs to be made right now. So those excitement, fear, regret, guilt, all those different things, they all hit us differently, but they're energy. So once you understand
Yeah.
how that energy hits you from a human perspective, then you can actually change that energy, use that energy to propel you forward. Massive,
I love
huge
it.
change.
I love it.
Huge change.
And what's interesting is that fear and excitement are actually processed the same way
Yeah.
in our brain, in our emotions, and our physical reactions.
Yep.
And so we teach this in public speaking training, because public speaking is the greatest fear.
Yep.
People are there's a whole story behind that, but basically, if you tell people, you show people how to convert that fear into excitement,
Yep.
they'll still feel the same feelings, but it's a different direction and it's more positive.
Yep. We
They can get through it.
yeah, we literally process it differently. It's I think Bruce Springsteen actually like spoke about that. He's like, I get all butterflies, I get all, and he gets all riled up right before the show. He's like, I feel like I'm gonna puke. And then I get up on stage and that's how I know I'm ready to go. Right?
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah.
completely different way of processing that emotion.
Right. Right. Well, you're still going to get butterflies. So now it's a matter of just training those butterflies to fly in direction.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I love it. Hey, we are talking with Doug Giesler, who is a transformative coach and a thought leader dedicated to helping people achieve their optimal performance while still maintaining inner peace or finding it in the first place. Doug has written multiple books and also contributed to Cracking the Rich Code Volume 16, where his chapter is Unlimit Your Limit. But he recently put out kind of a revised version of his first book, Be the Instrument. And so let's talk a little bit about that. What do you mean by be the instrument, Doug?
Well, be the instrument can be multiple meanings, John. It's really the ultimate answer is love, right? If we can be love in the moment, then love is the answer. But be the instrument is really kind of geared towards being our best self in the moment. You could refer to it as being the instrument of God, which is what a lot of people aim to do. That's hard to do in the human realm because we kind of get in our own way. So to be the instrument of God takes a lot of practice. I don't know that anyone can do that perfectly. I think maybe a dog could do that more perfectly than we can because they are really, unconditional love. Unconditional love is that's a hard thing to exemplify in this realm. But be the instrument.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's why Doug and God are.
Yeah, that's right. Inverse. You got it right, buddy. So yeah, be the instrument of change is I think what really it's be the instrument of change for yourself so that you can constantly be in growth mode and just keep getting better than the self that you were a moment ago, a week ago, a month ago, 6 months ago. Just keep on that growth momentum and tackle everything, understanding that the obstacle is the path and be the instrument in the moment, because that's the only place that you can. And so once
Yeah.
you isolate the moment and learn how to get there, which is what the book teaches you, there really are no limits. And that's why I wrote the chapter.
I'm loving it. I am loving it. You talk about being in the moment and understanding that what is it that they say? Yesterday was history, tomorrow is a mystery,
Yeah,
and today is a gift, which is why we call it the present.
that's right. Presence is what it's all about, man. Present.
And being right in there and understanding that.
Yep.
You also talked about being able to experience and not being so laser focused, but to experience everything else that's going on. That was a real that was an excellent revelation. What was there something that happened in your life? And we're running out of time already. Was there something that happened in your life that helped you realize that?
Mm-hmm.
Because earlier on you said you were focused on getting money, and then you realized that there was kind of more to life. What was the eye opener for you at that point?
The eye opener for me was day trading. And so this was back in the early internet days, and I was programming in a language called Easy Language. And I would code something, watch what it did on the screen, code something, watch what it did on the screen. And I was also reading the Bible and a lot of powerful spiritual literature at the same time. And so what I learned was that I wasn't watching my own code. So I began to look at my mind in a different way as it was processing. And when I was in front of a computer screen watching, the NASDAQ or S&P futures markets, tick by tick by tick by tick, I was also watching my brain, how it would actually get in my way. Like I would see that interplay of fear and desire. Want to take a trade too
Right.
fast, be afraid to take the trade. Want to take a trade too fast, be afraid to take the
Right.
trade. So I was watching that interplay from above my mind, from a higher level of awareness. And I know it sounds strange, but during that time frame, I would be so in the zone, John, that time would literally slow down. Like I would be in like massive focus, but also be aware of my mind as it was focused, and I would be able to pick like the bottom tick of a move and watch it go. Pick the bottom tick and watch it go. And it was like on these lightning fast time frames. And then I said, wait a minute. When I missed the trade, I literally saw myself get in my own way. I saw the thought. I saw the passing through of the moment. It was the weirdest thing, John, but super ridiculously powerful. And so when I really truly understood that my previous life before trading, I was getting in my own way in my life, like with thoughts, with limits. It was like the wheels really started turning, and I'm like, oh my God, imagine what I could do if I didn't do that. Right? Like, and that's like when I started to see, okay, I'm the one that's drawing the limits. I'm the one
Right.
that's not breaking out of myself. It's me. It's not anybody else's fault. It's not any situational thing. It's me. Like, so stop drawing the limits, dude. you know? So, but that period also.
And all of a sudden you realize there's life out there, not just sitting there with the face in the screen in the NASDAQ.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's right. Exactly. Yep. So here we are, about what are we, about 25 years later, and just one thing after the next, after the next, after the next, and it's like synchronicities happen. The right people show up in your life because you see them, you're aware, you're like, there's a reason why I just met John Verico. There's a reason why I just met Jim Britt. And these things all play off of each other, and you come to the conclusion like everything started really morphing when it became about other people and not DG. And so
Yes.
everything that I've done since then has been about servicing other people and helping other people gain success in their life, from a real estate perspective and now from a coaching perspective. It's about helping other people, spreading the love, spreading that knowledge, spreading that understanding, because, bottom line, John, I couldn't stand seeing people in the same kind of pain that I was in and had to go through, because, the trial and error method, that is just boatloaded with pain. So if I could,
It's hard.
like, let me just help a few people, like help them not have to
Yeah.
go through that kind of pain that I went through. And it gives me goosebumps
Yeah.
to talk about it that way because, you know, trial and error just, man, it's hard. I'm going to give you like, I'm giving you a manual like to learn this stuff for $20.
Right.
Man, read that freaking manual because it'll take 20, 30 years or your learning curve.
And that's why, you know, people like you and I, we wind up in these fields because, you know, we've learned things. And you know what they say, knowledge not shared is knowledge lost. So
Yeah.
if we have an opportunity to help somebody else, to prevent them from hitting those same brick walls that we may have hit
Yep.
in the past, or being made to feel like they were less than others, you know, we're all about getting out there and helping people
Yep.
to get beyond that.
Yeah.
Hey, we've had a fantastic conversation with Doug Giesler. We are out of time. Check him out. Learn more about him at unlimityourlimit.com. Also, check out his chapter in volume 16 of Cracking the Rich Code. And most importantly, reach out and connect with Doug on LinkedIn. He's very responsive there. It's a great place to check him out and to make a contact with him. Doug, I want to thank you so much for your time, for coming and joining us today on the Cracking the Rich Code podcast. Great conversation. Every time we get together, we have a great conversation. And we always, always, always have overrun our allotted time for our calls, no matter what it is, just like we're doing right now.
You're the best, John. I always enjoy being with you, brother. Thank you so much.
Well, take care, my friend. Thank you again for joining us. And thank you all for listening to the Cracking the Rich Code podcast. Stay tuned for another episode where we'll have more fantastic guests who are authors in the Cracking the Rich Code series. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.